In the endless dark of interstellar space, everything moves with quiet purpose. Planets orbit, stars breathe, comets wander. And then, sometimes, something arrives that doesn't belong. Something that defies everything we think we know. In October 2017, astronomers caught a glimpse of a visitor that would shake the very foundation of how we understand our universe. It was small, silent, and moving far too fast. We named it ʻOumuamua. ʻOumuamua, a Hawaiian word meaning a messenger from afar, arriving first. A name chosen with reverence because this object wasn't just another rock or comet drifting through our solar system. It came from beyond, from the depths between the stars. For the first time in human history, we had detected an interstellar object, something born in another solar system, now crossing paths with our own. And what we saw made no sense at all. Scene 1. The first glimpse. Soundscape shifts to a telescope control room, beeping monitors, distant chatter. On the night of October 19, 2017, at the Halakala Observatory in Hawaii, the Pan-STARRS telescope was scanning the skies, cataloging faint movements of asteroids near Earth. Nothing unusual, until one data point caught an astronomer's attention. A tiny streak of light, moving faster than any asteroid in our solar system should. At first, they thought it was a comet, but it didn't glow. There was no tail, no gas, no dust. And its trajectory was impossible. Oumuamua wasn't bound by the sun. It wasn't orbiting. It was just passing through. Traveling at 315,000 kilometers per hour, it was already halfway past Earth before we even knew it existed. Imagine that, something from another star system flying right through our cosmic neighborhood, silently, unseen, until it was nearly gone. Scene 2. The shape that shouldn't exist. When scientists finally gathered enough data, they reconstructed Oumuamua's path and brightness. That's when things became even stranger. Oumuamua wasn't spherical like most asteroids. It was long, thin, and flat, with a shape ratio no natural object had ever shown before. At first, they imagined it as a cigar-shaped object, about 400 meters long, tumbling end over end through space. Later analyses suggested it might be more like a pancake, wide and flat, glinting in the sunlight as it spun. Whatever it wasn't ordinary. Its brightness fluctuated wildly as it rotated, by a factor of 10, far more than any known asteroid. That alone told scientists something profound. Oumuamua wasn't just strange, it was unique. Scene 3. A push from nowhere. But then came the moment that truly shattered expectations. As Oumuamua drifted away from the sun, its speed increased. Not much, but enough to measure. It was accelerating, slightly, but steadily. That shouldn't be possible. A comet can accelerate because sunlight pushes on the gases it releases, the so-called outgassing effect. But Oumuamua had no coma, no tail, no visible gas at all. Nothing to explain the force. Something invisible was pushing it. For months, the world's best astrophysicists wrestled with the data. Could it be outgassing we just couldn't see? Or could it be something else, something unprecedented? One Harvard astronomer, Avi Loeb, dared to say what others wouldn't. What if Oumuamua wasn't natural at all? Scene 4. The shock wave. Deep hum builds like a heartbeat. Sound of distant typing, news alerts pinging. When Loeb published his hypothesis, it ignited a firestorm. He proposed that Oumuamua might be artificial, perhaps a solar sail, a thin sheet of reflective material propelled by starlight. In other words, a probe, a messenger, a relic of an advanced civilization. The reaction was immediate. Many scientists dismissed the idea, calling it far-fetched, but others couldn't deny how strange the data truly was. Because everything about Oumuamua, its speed, shape, and lack of gas emissions, defied conventional explanation. It was the first time humanity had ever observed something that might be a technological artifact from another world. And it had already come and gone. By the time the world began to truly wonder, Oumuamua was already leaving the solar system. Its faint light dimmed, slipping beyond the reach of our telescopes. A visitor that had appeared without warning, stayed briefly, and vanished forever, like a whisper from the stars. Scene 5. The Human Question. It's a humbling thought. For all our telescopes and all our technology, we almost missed it completely. Oumuamua reminds us that the universe is vast and full of surprises, that we are still explorers, standing on the shore of a cosmic ocean, watching something drift by and wondering, where did it come from? What was it made of? Was it a natural wanderer or a message sent long before we were here to receive it? These questions linger, echoing across the halls of science and the imagination of humanity. Because even if Oumuamua was nothing more than a shard of rock flung from a dying star system, its visit changed us. It showed us that the void between stars is not empty, that things move out there, silently, unknowably, carrying stories from places we may never reach. Narrator. This was the first interstellar visitor, but it would not be the last. Because now we know where to look, and what to look for. And one day, when the next messenger comes, we'll be ready. When the first excitement settled, scientists turned back to what they do best: measuring, analyzing, questioning. Because if Oumuamua was a messenger from another star, its message was hidden not in words, but in light. Scene 1. Reading the light. Telescopes across the world began tracking its fading glow. Each photon of reflected sunlight a clue about what this object might be. But the results refused to fit the puzzle. Oumuamua's brightness curve, the way its light changed as it spun, was erratic and complex. Instead of rotating smoothly like an asteroid, it tumbled chaotically, as if something had knocked it off balance long ago. Some scientists suggested it might be the remnant of a collision, a shard injected from the violent birth or death of a distant planet. Others thought it might have been shaped by tidal forces, stretched by the gravity of a star before being flung into interstellar space. But nothing matched the data exactly. The light was too unpredictable, the motion too strange. Scene 2. A cosmic flake of mystery. Years later, in 2023, new research offered a surprising explanation. What if Oumuamua wasn't a rock or metal or even solid ice? What if it was made of something more delicate, hydrogen ice or even nitrogen frost, formed in the frozen outskirts of another solar system? If so, sunlight could have slowly vaporized it, creating invisible jets of gas too faint for our instruments to detect. Tiny thrusts that could explain the acceleration we saw. But there was a problem. For that theory to work, Oumuamua would have had to survive millions of years drifting between stars without disintegrating completely. And hydrogen ice, the most fragile material in the universe, shouldn't have lasted that long. So once again, the mystery deepened. Oumuamua continued to defy the rules. Scene 3. The shape debate. Even its shape became a battleground of ideas. Some astronomers insisted it was elongated, like a spindle, a shape sculpted by violent ejection. Others argued it was a flattened shard, as thin as a few meters, glinting like a cosmic mirror. Every new model revealed something new, and yet none could explain everything. Could a natural process create something so extreme, so alien in its geometry, and send it hurtling between stars? Or was Oumuamua truly the first evidence of technology not our own? The debate was no longer confined to observatories. It spilled into podcasts, documentaries, and late-night conversations. For the first time, mainstream audiences began to ask a question once reserved for science fiction. What if we're not alone? And what if they've already passed us by? Scene 4. The question of intent. When Oumuamua entered our solar system, it didn't come straight in. Its trajectory was tilted, angled precisely to slingshot around the sun and accelerate outward again. To some, that looked like a planned maneuver. Not a straight crash course, but a calculated flyby. Of course, it could have been coincidence, the result of cosmic chance. But what if it wasn't? What if Oumuamua's journey through our solar system wasn't random, but intentional? We may never know. It sent no signal, it changed no course, it made no attempt to communicate. It simply passed through, like a silent observer, watching us from a distance we couldn't comprehend. And then, it was gone. Scene 5, a second visitor. Just when the scientific world thought the story of Oumuamua had ended, another surprise came. 2 years later, in 2019, astronomers discovered something astonishing. Another interstellar visitor, 2I Borisov. This one was unmistakably a comet, glowing with a tail of gas and dust. It looked exactly as scientists expected an interstellar traveler to look. And yet, that made Oumuamua even stranger. Because if Borisov was what normal looked like, then Oumuamua was something else entirely. A cosmic outlier, an exception to every rule. Scene 6, the implications. What Oumuamua truly taught us wasn't just that objects can cross between star systems. We already suspected that. It showed us that the universe is far more dynamic than we imagined. Planets are born, die, collide. Fragments are ejected into the darkness, becoming wanderers, carrying chemical fingerprints of their origin systems. And once in a while, one of those wanderers finds us. We used to think our solar system was isolated, a self-contained bubble adrift in a quiet sea. Now we know we are part of a grand cosmic circulation, a vast exchange of material, stories, and perhaps intelligence. What if our first encounter wasn't a message we could read, but a test of whether we'd even notice? Oumuamua reminded us that discovery often comes too late to understand. By the time we realized what it was already out of reach. A visitor that came, whispered a question, and vanished beyond the light. But it left something behind. Not debris, not evidence, but wonder. Narrator. And sometimes, wonder is enough. Because wonder drives us to look again, deeper, closer, to prepare for the next one. Because there will be a next one. This time, we'll be ready. New telescopes, like the Vera C. Rubin Observatory, are being built to scan the entire sky, night after night, looking for the next interstellar visitor. And when it comes, we'll catch it earlier. We'll study it closer, maybe even go after it. The next messenger might tell us where Oumuamua came from, or what it truly was. But one thing is certain. Its arrival marked the moment humanity realized we're part of a much larger story. We often imagine that the unknown will reveal itself gently. A signal, a pattern, a clear discovery that answers more than it questions. But sometimes, it's the silence that frightens us most. Oumuamua came and went without a sound, leaving only equations and confusion in its wake. And for many scientists, that silence spoke volumes. It wasn't just what Oumuamua did that was mysterious, it was what it didn't do. Scene 1. The fear of meaning. For months, the astronomy community argued over every possible explanation. Hydrogen ice, nitrogen flakes, cosmic dust sheets. Each theory solved one part of the mystery, but never all of it. And then there was that lingering, uncomfortable question, the one science usually avoids until all else fails. What if it wasn't natural? It wasn't proof that frightened people, it was possibility. Because if Oumuamua was artificial, then it meant something, or someone had sent it. And if it was sent, then we had just witnessed technology far beyond our own. For the first time in modern history, mainstream scientists found themselves confronting a question once left to philosophy. Are we truly alone? Or did we just see evidence that we are not? Scene 2. The voice that broke the silence. The scientist who said it aloud was Avi Loeb, a Harvard astrophysicist with decades of credibility and a reputation for fearless ideas. In late 2018, he published a paper proposing that Oumuamua's acceleration could be explained if it were a light sail. a wafer-thin structure propelled by sunlight, perhaps drifting as interstellar debris or a deliberate probe. Most of his peers reacted cautiously, some with outright hostility. To them, invoking extraterrestrial technology was premature, unscientific, a leap too far. But Loeb wasn't suggesting little green men, he was suggesting perspective. That, in a universe of 400 billion stars in our galaxy alone, it would be arrogant, even unscientific, to assume that life has not advanced elsewhere, perhaps long before us. And if that life built technology capable of crossing the void between stars, then what we saw might not be impossible, only unfamiliar. Scene 3. The weight of possibility. It's strange how quickly science turns emotional when faced with the unknown. Fear doesn't always come from monsters or danger. Sometimes it comes from the collapse of certainty. Oumuamua forced scientists to confront something unsettling, that the universe is not a static, predictable system, that it may contain things that don't fit our current understanding of physics, chemistry, or probability. And that realization, that loss of control, is its own kind of fear. For some, it was thrilling. For others, it was deeply uncomfortable. If this object was technology, then humanity had just been observed, not as explorers, but as the observed. Scene 4. The mirror of the unknown. There's a quiet irony in all of this. For centuries, we've searched for proof that we're not alone, through radio telescopes, deep space probes, mathematical models. But when something finally arrived, we weren't ready to believe it. Because believing would mean accepting that intelligence far greater than ours exists, and that they may have passed us by without a word. To some, that idea is terrifying, because if they didn't try to contact us, it could mean one of two things. Either we're not worth contacting, or they don't want to be found. Scene 5. The uncanny calm. Oumuamua didn't change course, didn't slow down, didn't send a signal. It didn't act with curiosity or aggression, only indifference. And that indifference may be the most chilling thing of all. If Oumuamua truly was a fragment of an ancient civilization, then we were not the subjects of its mission. We were the bystanders, like insects watching a satellite drift by, too small to comprehend what it is or why it's there. Perhaps it wasn't meant for us at all. Maybe it was old, derelict, a fragment of a civilization that no longer exists, a tombstone from a culture that reached for the stars and vanished. And if that's true, then Oumuamua isn't just a mystery, it's a warning. A reminder that even civilizations capable of crossing interstellar space are not immune to time. Scene 6. The philosophy of fear. Scientists are trained to embrace uncertainty, but Oumuamua blurred the line between knowledge and belief, between data and imagination. It revealed something deeper about us, that our fear of the unknown isn't about danger, it's about significance. Because if we're not alone, what does that mean for us? Are we the newcomers in a universe already old and wise? Or are we witnessing the silent ruins of others who came before? Oumuamua didn't bring us answers, it brought us reflection. And in its silence, we heard our own questions echo back. Who are we? How far will we go? And will our artifacts one day drift through another solar system, a fragment of a lost humanity, observed by strangers who wonder the same? Science can calculate the mass, the speed, the light curve, but it cannot yet measure meaning. And perhaps, in the end, that's what Oumuamua really gave us, a glimpse into our own cosmic humility. Narrator, quietly. The first interstellar visitor didn't just pass through our solar system, it passed through our imagination, and it left behind a shadow, one that still shapes how we look at the stars today. In the silence that followed Oumuamua's departure, something changed in us. Not in our technology, not in our data, but in our imagination. For the first time, humanity had seen an object from another star system. It was real, measurable, physical, undeniable. But what it represented was something deeper, a bridge between what we know and what we still dare to dream. Scene 1. The Legacy of Wonder. After Oumuamua, the world's astronomers didn't rest. They built new tools, new missions, new hopes. In Chile, the Veracruz Observatory is preparing to watch the entire sky every few nights, mapping every transient light that moves, so that when the next interstellar visitor arrives, we'll see it before it passes us by. In the United States and in Europe, proposals have emerged for something bold, a spacecraft designed to chase the next Oumuamua, to follow it out into the dark, to see it up close. We call these missions interstellar interceptors, and in their blueprints lies a quiet revolution, a decision not to let wonder slip away again. Scene 2. A messenger of possibility. Oumuamua might have been nothing more than a fragment of frozen hydrogen, or the shell of a long-dead probe, or something in between, something we don't yet have a name for. But regardless of what it was, it changed the trajectory of our curiosity. For generations, we've looked outward, dreaming of visiting other stars. But this was the first time something from another star came to us, and that changed everything. Because it reminded us that the universe is not still. It moves, it breathes, it exchanges. Just as we send out signals and spacecraft, the cosmos sends things back, not as answers, but as invitations. Scene 3. The Invitation. An invitation to imagine more, to question the limits of what we call possible, to see that between every star lies not emptiness, but connection. Maybe Oumuamua wasn't a messenger from another civilization. Maybe it was a messenger from reality itself, whispering, there is more. More to understand, more to see, more to become. Because whether we are alone or not, the universe is speaking, not in words, but in wonder. And every discovery, every mystery, every unexplainable signal is part of that ongoing conversation. Scene 4. Humanity's reflection. When we look back at this moment, decades from now, we may not remember every number or orbit, but we'll remember the feeling, that strange mix of awe and unease, when we realized that the stars had just spoken back. Oumuamua was a mirror. In its silent passage, it reflected not its own secrets, but ours. Our longing to know, our fear of insignificance, our hunger to connect. And maybe that's the real story. Because the universe doesn't need to prove it's alive for us to listen. We only need to decide whether we're willing to hear. Scene 5. The Future of Discovery. Even now, humanity is preparing to go further. Our probes, Voyager 1, Voyager 2, New Horizons, are already drifting toward the interstellar frontier. In time, they too will become like Oumuamua, mute travelers in the dark, carrying fragments of who we were across light years of silence. And perhaps one distant civilization will look up one day and detect something faint and unfamiliar, a small object glinting in their starlight, and they will wonder, what was that? Where did it come from? Who sent it? And in that moment, the story will come full circle. Scene 7. The Closing Words. Oumuamua didn't just pass through our solar system. It passed through our story and became a part of who we are. A reminder that even in the vastness of space, we are connected by curiosity, by wonder, by the unspoken truth that somewhere beyond the horizon, the universe is still full of surprises. And that is what makes us explorers.